Alakatuanto kierekan lo Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific, Nico Roy Hawkins. Coming up.
We called for a stop of the violence. We called for a stop of the barricades, but nobody listened to that.
The French ambassador to the Pacific has called out what they see as dis- and misinformation in the territory. Also,
during the time in which the nurse was attending the patient, there was no guard.
Concerns are being raised about a lack of staff in Tonga's prisons following a fatal attack on a psychiatric nurse, and there are claims that thousands of Papuans have been displaced due to Indonesian military operation in West Papua. The French ambassador to the Pacific, Véronique Roger-Lacan, and French Foreign Affairs in Europe acting spokesperson, Christophe Lemoine, have called out what they see as dis- and misinformation in the territory. They spoke with Lydia Lewis about the perceived militarization, interference by Azerbaijan, and recent contact with Pacific leaders. Lydia started off by asking Ms. Roger-Lacan for the latest on the recent United Nations Committee on Decolonization.
So violence has to stop, and that's what the C24 said. And dialogue has to resume. That's what the C24 said. And this is what we are doing. We are helping to stop the violence, and we are having this dialogue, ongoing dialogue, permanently.
We still have militias who are armed. We still have increasing numbers of security forces on the ground. And that is militarization, whether it is a formal, and we're just calling it as we see it.
That's the Pacific Conference of Churches spokesperson, Reverend James Bhagwan, a petitioner at the recent UN meeting on decolonisation. I put his comments to the French ambassador to the Pacific.
Special forces, we talk about military forces. So there are no military forces involved in this crisis in New Caledonia. They are gendarmerie, who are interior public order management type of forces, and police forces. And of course, because of the unrest, some new gendarmerie and new police were sent to reinforce, to help, to assist those people to re-establish public order. Also, you have seen that within the detention centers, there were lots of unrest, so we had to send some reinforcement to stop this unrest. And this reverend is talking about something he doesn't know.
Here's Reverend Bhagwan again.
To not pay attention to things like intergenerational trauma is quite naive for people to exclude those things as part of community history. For civil society, we have called for the immediate withdrawal of the extra forces. We need to see a phasing down of military options or security options in Kanaki, New Caledonia. With each arrival and with each time people see these security forces out on the street, the mind goes back to what led to the Matignon and Numera Accords, which was, of course, the oppression of the Kanak people and the violence by security forces from France.
This is Véronique Roger-Lacan's response.
We called for a stop of the violence. We called for a stop of the barricades, but nobody listened to that. So this reverend has to know what he's talking about. This once law and order is restored, everybody will go back to their respective places. But so far, also, if you, for example, you know perfectly the issue of territorial route number 1, which goes from Nouméa to La Tontouta, it has been blocked by barricades put by the rioters. And how do you remove this type of barricades if you have no reinforcement of public law and enforcement forces? So that's what we respond to this reverend.
We've seen far too much already in Nouméa to be fooled by that. But we've also seen the way in which the French government treats that particular area. This is part of their maintaining their colonies, is part of their Indo-Pacific strategy.
This thing of the presence, the militarization by the French state of New Caledonia and of the region, this has to be corrected because it's not true.
Can you see in any way how it could be perceived when thousands extra reinforcements have been sent, including what we've seen images of armoured vehicles with guns on the top of vehicles.
Well, I would like to suggest those people to watch the houses that were burned, to listen to the people that were harassed in their houses, to listen to people who were really feared, really fearing the violence and the psychological violence exerted on them.
Would you agree with the sentiment that force is not the answer here?
Of course, force is not the answer. Force has to be used to bring back public order sometimes. Because how do you bring back again law and order when people are burning and putting barricades and preventing everyone to have access to medical assistance? He should talk to us first, maybe, to have a balanced view, because apparently he has talked only to one side. And it's important for such a high-level personality, when they express some views, it's important for them to talk to everyone. I have been tasked to reach out to the Secretary General of the PIF, to the chairman of chairman of the PIF, and to the Prime Minister of Tonga, because he will be chairing the PIF soon. And we are establishing some meetings for me to discuss everything with that.
And now Azerbaijan, can you please give your perspective on the perceived interference role from Azerbaijan with its Baku initiative group?
It's interesting to see that some countries who have no interest in the Pacific all of a sudden are become specialists of the Pacific. They are around, and we are coping with that. It's up to the people who mingle with them to make their own mind on whether this is helpful or not.
Joining the Talanoa is Christophe Lemoine, France's acting Foreign Affairs in Europe spokesperson.
On the question of the interference of Azerbaijan in New Caledonia, this is Azerbaijan has launched some kind of campaign that they spotted New Caledonia, they spotted French Polynesia, and they even spotted Corsica. So it's an organized and strategic campaign to try to mingle with the independentist people in those territories. As Véronique said, we consider it a fact. We realize that they do that. They organize conferences in Baku where they invite independentist representatives of. That was the case with New Caledonia. That was the case with French Polynesia, and they even tried with Corsica. So it's a phenomenon that we know of, and for the moment, it's a question for the people they talk to figure out if it's helpful for them or not. It's linked with our position on the Armenian High Karabakh conflict. So that's a stance from the Azerbaijan state to lead those maneuvers against us. So New Caledonia is one part of that maneuvers, but there are other parts, and especially in French Polynesia and in Corsica.
What concerns have you seen in media reports that you would like to address?
On these very specific issues of Azerbaijan, I think it's one part of the whole situation, but this is not the main part. And as Véronique said, the priority of the French government is to find a solution, and a peaceful solution, to the situation in New Caledonia. Azerbaijan tried to mingle in this, but this is just one part of the problem.
What solution or solutions are seriously being discussed?
Yeah, I'll go back to Véronique. That's more her topic.
There are three options: independence within the UN Charter, independence association, and organization within an independent state. And it's among those three solutions that people have to choose, and there is dialogue, and we have to dialogue about that. And what we have done is that we have offered three referenda within the New Year agreement, and everyone ought to have used those opportunities.
Just to be clear, the perceived reason as to why the unrest started, the proposed constitutional reform, that is not being scrapped.
In legal terms, in legal and institutional terms, it cannot be withdrawn because it has been voted by the National Assembly and the Senate, so it exists as such. But it will not exist because it's a constitutional reform. It will not exist until the Congress is reunited.
There is also, Veronique is absolutely right. It has to be voted in the same terms by the two chambers. I'm sure you know that one of the chambers has been dismissed on Monday. And so that's a question because we have no lower house of the parliament at the moment. There will be elections in 3 weeks. And secondly, if you read the text of the draft law, of the draft constitutional law, there is a time limit on the 1st of July. So I think this whole thing put together will lead to a complete reconsideration of that process.
In light of the upcoming elections, in light of the Paris Olympics, has France forgotten the unrest in New Caledonia?
Not at all. The exact same type of engagement is going on. The same type of food assistance, of medical assistance, of legal assistance. We are there also to deploy a safe environment for everyone to be able to vote. And as I said, because there has been a dissolution of the National Assembly on Monday, everyone in New Caledonia who has an interest in putting some candidates has the power to do so, and we are helping on that.
A warning, this next story discusses some terms that may be upsetting for people. Concerns are being raised about a lack of staff in Tonga's prisons following a brutal attack on a psychiatric nurse on June 8th. The nurse later died from his injuries in hospital on the 16th. I spoke with our Tonga correspondent, Kalafi Moala. He says the incident was preventable.
Obviously, during the time in which this nurse was attending the patient, there was no guard, prison guard there that was watching what was going on when he was attacked. So there's a call, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue publicly, over radio, over social media, that this is something that should never have happened.
Kalafi Moala says the incident has also sparked wider conversations about worker safety.
There should have a lot more, better security to protect the nurses that are working there. The nurse, there is a lot of also public discussion. He's a younger person. I mean, you're looking at the early 30s age group. He had a wife and also a young child. And so it's a major issue here in Tonga right now.
Tonga's health minister has promised to conduct a review of mental health care at Huatolitoli prison. If you are in Aotearoa and need to talk, you can free text or call 1737. The United Liberation Movement for West Papua, or ULMWP, claims thousands of Papuans have been displaced due to an Indonesian military operation. The group says last week 15 villages were completely emptied of inhabitants. Photos and videos sent to RNZ Pacific by the ULMWP, but not verified, show hordes of people leaving a church and filing into trucks, including ones owned by Indonesia's military. The ULMWP's president, Benny Wenda, told Lydia Lewis 4 people were killed because of the military operation.
The current situation is in a place called Paniai district. There's displaced almost 5,000 West Papuans, particularly women, children, and elderly people are displaced because of the Indonesian military conduct the operation in the area. So mostly now they settled in one of the church, Catholic church in Paniai. And this is the ongoing operation since 2018 until today. almost 60,000 to 100,000. Now more additional displaced. It's made up of 100,000 total. And while these operations, that 4 people were killed. And this is like, Indonesians are hidden genocide. I call Indonesia committed ecocide a genocide, because the Indonesia not only targeting the people, but also cutting down the trees and oil palm plantations. And this is the cause most devastations in terms of their environment. And so this is ongoing, not just this particular place, but most of the place called Intan Jaya, Puncak Jaya, Nduga, Mai Barat, Oksibil, Kiwiro. Those people fled to the bush, now never come back. And Indonesia using the church burned down and used the church compound, and as well as a school and hospital. Last month, also the Indonesia using this month, Indonesia using the hospital as a base. So most the hospital worker and patients ran away, even a coma. So this is happening right now.
And Indonesia's military is saying fighting flared up because of the West Papua National Liberation Army burning a minivan. Is this true?
Sometimes Indonesia, they made up that story, but this West Papua Army, they're always there. I call them home guard, because the Indonesia illegally occupied our country and then conduct the military operation, and not in, this kind of places. Sometimes they create the violence and blame, but West Papuans army are always there from the beginning, and they are guarding their homeland and the lands. And because you may see the military conduct the operation there in the mountain, Indonesia discovered the gold and goals, and also the building roads in order to cutting the trees, and that's why they clear the place so that they easily to get the gold. And for example, Wabu block in Intan Jaya, they discovered a gold reserve bigger than Freeport mine. So that's why they are clearing the entire populations, and now they using this as a reason to blame the West Papuan army or West Papua army. So this is not new, and even the investor is from abroad, Australia and Europe and a lot of places, and invest, and also owned by the Indonesian military retire. This is not new, and this is even in Freeport mines, and even in oil palm plantation owned by the Indonesian military.
And what is your call for the Melanesian Spearhead Group? Are you disappointed about the outcome following the meeting in Vanuatu, and what are your hopes for the next one?
Yes, as a human level, almost is that we are lobbying, and 13 years we've been denied since 2015 until today. Every time the meeting we've been denied. And as you know, West Papua by the blood and by the entire population are Melanesians, and this is the right place to be as a full member, and by the race and linguistically race and blood. We are connected as a Melanesian at the Pacific, and we are entitled. Not Indonesia. Indonesia is colonial, and that's why we are demand the Melanesian Spear Group. This year, we demand for full member, because when you delay and then more killing, and we are not safe with Indonesia, because last 50 years we live with Indonesia. almost half of 5,000 West Papuan been killed since Indonesia illegal. This is more than that. So we are not safe with Indonesia. Only we become full member, guarantee that we are safe, and then from there we want to, engage with Indonesia a peacefully way, because that is what we are demanding.
RNZ Pacific has requested a response from the Indonesian embassy in Wellington. That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, Luki Mufala next time more.